Today, I'm taking a look at the steep, rapid decline of the New York Giants, where I think things truly went south for good and if there's any hope on the horizon. But before we jump into the current state of affairs, a bit of a history lesson. Now, if you click play on this video, I'm assuming that you have at least some familiarity and knowledge of the Giants, but if you don't, and no shame if you don't, they've been so bad for so long, who could blame you? Here's a bit of a refresher. The Giants are one of the NFL's oldest franchises, having been established in 1925. And obviously, with that many years and that many seasons, they've experienced a slew of triumphs and just as many, if not more, failures. However, with 4 Super Bowl trophies and 8 championships total, 4 coming pre-merger, the Giants have always been long revered as one of the NFL's most elite franchises. They've had a plethora of All-Pros and Hall of Fame players, and a certain number of players whose superstardom transcended the gridiron, like Lawrence Taylor, Michael Strahan, and Odell Beckham Jr. So long story short, the Giants have always long been considered one of the NFL's top franchises. But somewhere along the way, this team fell from the top of the mountaintop to the bottom of the basement. They become a punching bag among other fan bases and used for social media engagement bait on Twitter. They become the butt of jokes and have one of the most abysmal win-loss records of the entire decade. So where did it all go wrong? Well, before we jump into all the negativity, here's the last real sustainable success this franchise has seen.
And the New York Giants, given last rites by many in December, are the Super Bowl champs in February.
Wait, who pressed fast forward?
At the half. Interesting formation.
I mean, really, you're at the 4-yard line, and you don't feel comfortable enough in your offense to be able to run a traditional play?
This is sad.
Oh my God, no. What happened? Where did it all go wrong? How did it all get this bad? Well, if you ask me, it all started in 2012. 2012, of course, was the year immediately following the Giants winning their 4th Super Bowl, and honestly, this really should have been a harbinger of all the bad things that were about to come their way. For starters, the Giants became the first defending Super Bowl champion to lose the Thursday night kickoff home opener against the hated Dallas Cowboys. And if you ask me, I think things actually got worse a little bit earlier when Hakeem Nicks broke his foot in the preseason. They rushed him back, and that's a story for another time. The entire 2012 season was full of ups and downs. There were some brilliant, triumphant moments and some absolutely horrific ones as well. Some moments that really just made you feel like this team was full of ineptitude and didn't have the fire to compete. But all told, they finished with the same record they did the year prior, 9-7. Except the only caveat was that there was no division win, there was no playoff appearance, there was no miracle Super Bowl run. It was just that, 9-7. But then, in 2013, shit got really bad. To be fair, the big blue train got immediately derailed literally from the first play from scrimmage of the season.
And we begin with play action and a screen pass that is almost intercepted, and DeMarcus Ware is there, and DeMarcus Ware gets it. He does pick it off.
The Giants lost their first 6 games of 2013, many of which were in humiliatingly bad fashion, until finally getting their first win of the season against an absolutely hapless Minnesota Vikings team led by Josh Freeman, whom they signed off the streets. I would, and I'm not joking when I say this, consider that one of the worst football games and sporting events I've ever watched in my life. I remember watching that in my college dorm and not even being excited about the win. But I guess if you were 1-6, why would you be excited? And you know what? That's not the point. The game was awful. It was a pain to watch. The Giants rallied to finish 7-9, and there's really no way to sugarcoat this. That season just sucked. It was one of the biggest slogs I've ever experienced as a fan, and I can't even remember a moment of excitement from any of the games outside of the first 2 weeks before you knew that the season was over. But little did I know that would be only the start to what was nearly a decade-long playoff drought. The next year, things improved. Okay, they finished with a worse record, but at least it only took them until week 3 to get their first win of the season. 2014 was also the year they drafted Odell Beckham Jr. Now, I'm sure I'm going to talk about him at some point on this channel, so I'll keep it brief and just say that his level of fame and his ability to make highlight reel play after highlight reel play really helped mask how bad this organization got for a period of time. So why do I bring up 2014? Well, I want to focus on one specific game from that season, and it's actually not the one where the aforementioned Odell Beckham Jr. went from just a rookie to one of the most famous athletes on planet Earth. The game that I want to focus on isn't that Cowboys game. It's actually the one that came the following week, Week 14, Giants and Jaguars. To me, this game right here is what started the modern implosion of a once great franchise. Let me explain. Entering this matchup, the Jaguars were an atrocious 1-10. In their previous 11 games, they were outscored 305 to 161 by opponents and were being led by a struggling quarterback in the form of Blake Bortles. Their head coach was Gus Bradley, who went 4-12 his rookie year the year prior, and this was just simply a team that was bad. They scored 24 offensive touchdowns all year. To put that into perspective, the previously talked about and much maligned 2013 Giants, who were awful on offense, even they managed 29 offensive touchdowns. That's how bad this Jaguars team was offensively. This was, on paper, a game that you would expect the Giants to absolutely dominate, especially a week after coming off of an embarrassing choke job against a division rival in prime time. And through the first 35-ish minutes, that's exactly what happened. The Giants stormed out to a 21-3 lead, and for all intents and purposes, that should have been it. That should have been game over, and the front pages the next day should have been talking about Tom Coughlin getting his first win in Jacksonville since leaving. But everything quickly crumbled by the end of the third quarter. The Giants' once large lead had now shrunk into 5. I don't want to get into an entire rehash and play-by-play of this game, but the Giants absolutely choked, and a Josh Scobie field goal with less than 30 seconds left all but sealed their comeback victory against a deflated and demoralized Giants team. It was the second straight week the Giants choked away a fourth quarter lead, but this time it wasn't to a team that has won 5 Super Bowls. It wasn't to another one of the NFL's perceived big dogs. It was to the lowly Jacksonville Jaguars. I remember watching this game and watching the result and feeling absolutely dejected and embarrassed. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't embarrassed about the result. I was embarrassed to be a fan of the team. Sure, between 2007 and 2014, there have been some bad Giants losses. My mind immediately goes to the Monday night game in 2008 against the Browns, or the game against the Saints in 2009, and obviously you can't talk about a topic like this and not bring up the Deshaun Jackson game. But the reason this one sticks out so much to me is because of who it was against and how it happened. This wasn't a gritty loss to an evenly skilled team, and it wasn't even a total ass whooping against a much better and more skilled opponent. This was a total bottle job against mediocre competition. Since that fateful game, the Giants have been surpassed by nearly every single NFL team in what matters the most: wins and losses. Over the past decade, a lot of teams more regularly associated with losing than the Giants have usurped them in terms of either sustained success or just flat out wins. To put it into perspective, every team in the NFC East has won the division at least 2 times since the Giants last won. The Cleveland Browns have had more double-digit winning seasons. The Jacksonville Jaguars have had more seasons with a winning record. And the Jets, well, the Jets are actually one of the few teams who have had it worse than the Giants, so I'll lay off. My point is that 2014 loss to the Jaguars symbolized the way things were about to become for the Giants in more ways than one. The Giants got beat and passed up by a team they would have never even considered themselves in the same zip code as, both that season and as franchise as a whole. By being complacent, they were left in the dust. And to me, it was a metaphor for teams in the NFL's cellar being set to overtake the Giants and leave them locked in the same shabby conditions they had to survive in. In my opinion, this was the game where the Giants went from being one of the NFL's most pristine franchises to a laughingstock of one. It was the game where losing started to become laced within the team's DNA, the organization's DNA. It went from, oh wow, the Giants lost to them, to, oh, of course the Giants lost to them. The 2014 season was also really the last season without any semblance of severe off-field drama. I'll probably talk about it more in detail, but man, the Odell and Josh Norman stuff, Eli Apple, Ben McAdoo, the boat trip, and that's not even getting into Joe Judge. And that brings us to 2024, 10 years after that watershed loss to the Jaguars. Are things in a better spot now? Well, it's tough to say 100%, but I can say this with certainty. I'm much more confident in the direction of the franchise today than I was 5 years ago. I'm hopeful that the dark days can be left in the past and that we can find a new level of success. Probably not next season, but hopefully sometime in the future. I'm a fan of a lot of the decisions being made by General Manager Joe Schoen, but of course what matters most is wins on Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and whatever day of the week the NFL's deciding games are being played on. I want to cover a variety of different topics on this channel, ranging from best and worst moments in recent memory to underrated Giants to trades that almost happened. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and a like, and let me know in the comments what you think was the moment or game where this team really started to decline for good. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.